How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I'm going to do a mission called High Wind Warning. I've only got to go and grab one set of long logs, so it's not too bad, and yeah, there's an excuse to bring this truck out, which I haven't used for a little while. So yeah, on the map, I'm on the Heartlands map, and yeah, it's a mission, not a contract, this one, and it's pretty simple, in theory. I've only got to get the logs from just down the road, really. Just kind of over there, not even as far as that scrapyard, and then take them back to practically just outside the garage. But yeah, I need a long logging trailer, so I'm going to have to go up the top of the map to the trailer store, and then I'm probably going to find a little bit of a different route back just to save doubling back on myself. And yeah, like I said, it was a good excuse to bring this truck out. Got the long logging add-on. I mean, once Longwood was involved, I had to get the goddamn horse out, didn't I? Biggest roof rack in the business and all that. Yeah, it was just showing you, like, I didn't even have to pack him on or anything for this one. He just kind of hooks his front wheels over the sun visor, and then it kind of wedges his wheels at the back, and he's stuck on there pretty good. Goddamn professional. Yeah, this truck, I've not used it for a good old while now. I quite like it, but it's not got that many add-ons on it overall. So one of the few things it can do, though, yeah, is the long logging add-on. So I thought it was a good reason to take it out. It's a pretty hefty truck as well. It kind of reminds me a little bit like the P16, but obviously it is all-wheel drive. And it's got more normal tyres. The P16's got its own like custom set. There's a hell of a lot of weight though on the front of this truck that's kind of stuck out over the front axle, which is very spongy to say the least. But one nice thing I do like about this truck is it's got the high range gearbox, and it's one of the bigger trucks in the game really that does have that. I'm surprised they didn't put like the special or advanced special selection in, but yeah, it's pretty cool because you can kind of see now, I've not really driven a vehicle with a high range gearbox for a little while, but when I keep saying when I'm driving the special, advanced special gearboxes, that it feels just a few miles an hour too slow. This is, yeah, about a nice pace really with a high gear. You get a good old move on, you're not absolutely flying, it's not fast enough to where this game goes a bit mad and you kind of like you're on black ice and you lose traction and you slide all over the place. But yeah, it's quick enough to get a move on. You I don't get that sort of impatient feeling even. I can't even bloody talk. Don't know what's going on with me recently. As for the weather on this, it was about as bright as I could get it. I think if I reloaded to another map and then back, it might have like reset it, but it was only letting me have cloudy afternoons really. Nose dived a bit hard there, and the old loaf popped off. Just sort of stick it back on quickly. It's handy as well. I did change the exhaust to, instead of the stock one, there's ones that are kind of symmetrical that work out pretty nicely, because as you sort of wedge the loaf back like that, it kind of locks between them. Yeah, this didn't really do too keen on the nose dive, but you can see there's a bit of a good old snout hanging over the front axle. And again, there's only one axle and it's very spongy, so stuff like that. In some ways as well, it reminds me a little bit like the Dan, because that's a bit of a long vehicle, and again it's only got the one axle that's just kind of stuck out pretty far on its own. It had quite spongy suspension. So far though, this hasn't been given like raised suspension or anything. I have to say though, one thing I did think was pretty cool about it was for the most part driving in auto or high range, when you get to this kind of section, stick it in low range with the diffs on, and it actually does have engageable diffs and stuff as well. Yeah, it motors along pretty convincingly, to be honest. Like this section, I like crossing this river section. I sort of prefer it over if that bridge in the background was just built. But yeah, even some of the bigger, heftier vehicles, because there's a lot of logs in just going along that river path, it sort of bounces you around quite a lot, so you never really get the traction planted for very long. But yeah, in low range with the diffs on, this is pretty decent, pretty respectable really. For what it is and the kind of shape it is, it's kind of, yeah, like an oversized highway truck almost, but it gets the job done. I was just showing you quickly as well while I was driving past, because someone mentioned it the other day. You can see that trailer, the farming trailer, looks on the map like it's stood up on its end, and that's why it's not letting me attach the trailer, but when you look at it on the actual map, it is sort of laying down flat in theory, ready to go. But yeah, I appreciate, I apologise, I forgot who mentioned it, but yeah, it's that's why it's doing that, so hopefully they patch that out pretty soon. At that point, I don't know why I hit the steering really hard and just started swerving all over the place. It was my bad. Can't even blame the cat this time. He hasn't even appeared yet, actually. So yeah, the trailer store. While I was there quickly, I just got a maintenance trailer because I did kind of smash the truck a little bit, particularly when I just came into the trailer store. Get that done, grab the long log trailer, do my horn, scare a couple of bales of hay. Get the weather back to normal, even though it's still pissing down with rain. Reminds me of home. And then yeah, I'm going to cut back across the river because that's kind of the only option really, but instead of cutting back round the same way I did, I'm going to take a right when I get to the end of that. Cut across the fields where I did the 30 harvestless years mission. Yeah, just to save going down that dirt road and then kind of connect back with it. Go down near to the yard at the bottom and the scrap yard and everything. Grab the logs, cut along that road that's a bit boggy and iffy, and yeah, pretty much back to the garage to drop them off. To be fair as well, considering the size of this vehicle, I mean the turning circle is pretty decent on it as well. It's one of them really. If it had more options and setups, like if you could have a sideboard on the back, or even a crane. I don't know why it hasn't got a crane. As I say that actually, I'm kind of 99% sure it hasn't. But vehicles like the Navistar are kind of shaped sort of like this vehicle, and that manages to get a crane on the back. But yeah, I believe they added this on, was it Wisconsin, which was kind of a pretty login focused phase anyway. And again, it was like pretty decent. I never really disliked it. I wouldn't say one of my top 10 vehicles or anything like that. But yeah, just don't get an excuse to use it all that often. Just because of the lack of setups really. Even if you're going to do logging, there's usually some other thing you want to do, or there's other vehicles where you can put a logging crane on, so at least if you tip your cargo halfway down the road or whatever, you can kind of get the goddamn horse out, flip yourself back to your wheels, get the logging crane to load it all back on. Whereas in this case, if I tipped, then yeah, I'm going to have to go back to the garage really and get a logging crane. Although to be fair, the mission's like close enough to where I'd probably just turn around, to be fair, just abandon the logs, go back, get some more and try again. I believe I did that in the live stream actually, right at the end. I just kept dropping the hammer in Fox's twice twins there. Kept tipping over, spill my load. That's what she said, of course. Yeah, speaking of Fox as well, I said it yesterday and I had a quick test of it and it was good. The K700, he's done a Fox's version of that called, I believe, the Commando 700. But yesterday it hadn't quite updated yet. He mentioned it to me in the comments that about the farming trailers and stuff, but he's got all that sorted now. Tested it tonight, and yeah, it can have all kinds of trailers. It's pretty cool. He's added like it sort of just puts like a steel girder thing on the back where you can then put a saddle high and a saddle low on that. So you can now take like all the saddle trailers, all the semi-trailers, the step deck trailer, all that sort of stuff, and some of the heavy duty trailers as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And driving it, it's again feels way better. The steering's a lot better. Just the way it interacts with the environment is a lot better. Like this game, sort of going back when I cut through that river a minute ago. As you go from kind of like the normal ground and mud in this game, whatever, or even the road, and you sort of dive into the river, you tend to get stopped pretty suddenly, and it does it for sort of all the vehicles in this game. For the most part, no matter how powerful they are, it's just kind of, yeah, when you transition from one terrain to the other, it can be a little bit iffy. And I believe when I was reading through, he said something about he'd kind of sorted that out a bit, and yeah, it was a decent vehicle, to be honest. And just got some pretty cool setups as well. Like, it doesn't feel overpowered or broken or anything like that. It just feels like how you wish it got added to the game, really. Not sure if that's like a particularly hefty patch of mud there. I did blip the throttle though, so I was kind of my fault. I lost a bit of my momentum in high, but yeah, hit a patch of mud there that slowed me right down. Tried to kick me out the high range gear. Still got a sunflowers field to run over, although this truck's pretty tall, so you won't really enjoy it as much. Go for that tree. This thing, I mean, it takes a bit of a hit when you do, but it's certainly big and fat enough to knock plenty of trees down, but yeah. The engine ain't gonna last forever. Detonate some bees. I don't know why I like doing that with them. I found a few sets of them around the maps. Not as many as they used to be. And then now it's a bit of an iffy one. It's probably fuel-wise better to go into the low range. It's not that much faster or slower really, like auto or low range. You probably get a little bit of benefit here and there in the auto because it is going faster and it's trying to scrap its way along, but for the most part it just sort of wheel spins, so stick it in low range with a diff on and it's just a much more convincing drive. You can see there as I switch back and forth, it's not like I sped up particularly, but you might hit a little patch here and there where it's not too bad, and then you will feel the advantage of auto when it kind of boosts you up to speed a bit more. But yeah, the dirt roads on this phase really altogether for the most part are more severe than they've been in previous maps, which strictly speaking I don't dislike. They don't feel like they've been dialed up to 11 and just made ridiculous for the sakes of slowing us down. So, and again, I am mixing and matching with the truck, so if I was doing this in like the Zik 605R or the Dolphin, all that sort of stuff, it'd probably tick along a bit nicer. But yeah, like I say, overall I don't think it's a bad thing. I had my little blast on the roads where I could put it in high gear and get shifting, but then yeah, terrain like this, and at least on these roads, even considering it's just a straight road really, they've still got like the ruts that are running in the road. Some of there's kind of like potholes here and there in them, and you do sink pretty deep, so it's one of them. That's what she said. Yeah, if you don't pay attention though, you can tip over. I even tipped the P16 over the other day just from like sinking into a pothole while I was on a road like this, so if there's enough to swallow a P16 tyre, then yeah, it's going to catch a fair few vehicles out. I don't know what I was doing now. I was holding L1 or something, and I was realising it wasn't letting me rotate the camera when I was holding L1, and then I suddenly realised, like, well, duh, it's because I'm changing gear. Yeah, it was the logging station. At least there's no limit on logs or anything, so like I said, if I did set off and tip or whatever, I can keep coming back as many times as I want. I get why they tried to do limited cargo on some things, but I don't know, there's always that risk if you get a bug. It's rare, but I've had a few cargo that have vanished, and yeah, if it's limited, you can't really do a lot about it. You've got to restart the mission or panic and turn your computer off pretty quick and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I'd rather everything's just unlimited, and then worst case, you can always just go back and get some more. I tried to go into high gear there, I wasn't too happy about it. And at this point, I kind of knew, I nearly did it there, I was veering off to the left a bit, and I was like, well, I'll go back. But yeah, get off the road, and I could have gone across that grassy patch and dropped the hammer. Once we got moving though, and it finally let me get into high gear, it was ticking along nicely. And again, I mean, this truck, if nothing else, is pretty much built to be hauling these logs around. And I mean, for how high this vehicle sits and everything, the front tyres overall look quite small for the size of the vehicle and everything. I assume it's sort of, the tyre size is dictated by the two rear wheels really, because you can't go any bigger than that without they'll start hitting. But I think they're like 58-inch tyres or something, so it's pretty decent. It was close there. I hit a bit of a pothole in the road. Could have tipped, but there's a goddamn professional on board, so make sure stuff like that doesn't happen. Yeah, these roads, they don't take any prisoners. I think at some point I do now veer off to the left a little bit, just to get a bit of a boost. But in fairness to the game, like it's not like the roads are doing my head in or anything. I just, yeah, wanted to drop the hammer. It's only a matter of time before it's going to happen. But at least all the maps on this phase are like decently sized, so you can get your foot down a bit and you don't feel like you've just gone from one end of the map to the other in sort of 30 seconds to a minute. I remember particularly Factory Grounds. I don't hate the map, although someone did say it was probably one of the uglier looking phases we've had, and yeah, I have to agree with that, to be honest. Even though that what it was, Antonovsky or something, the other map looked alright. Factory Grounds was a bit, yeah, a bit bland and depressing. I didn't like the scrapyard on it either. But yeah, once you left the garage, you sort of fly up to the top of the map, and it only took 30 seconds if that, and then you've already covered most of that. But yeah, as nice as the low range diff on was, I was eyeballing the left of the road. Get it in auto, it's not quite firing up to speed. Again, it probably could, but the game's been a lot more restrictive recently, and even when you click in L1 trying to sort of fly up through the auto gears, it's like they've pre-coded certain areas, i.e. most areas, where it just won't let you climb up the gears anymore. Sorry, it's my phone beeping again. One day. But yeah, cheated on the grass a bit just to get myself up to speed. Was able to stick in the high gear, and again, it's just a good old pace going to it. Fly around this corner. We're done. And a pretty simple mission, doesn't really seem to be, I don't know, yeah, it's pretty inconsequential, a couple of grand. I just an excuse to go logging really and try this vehicle out. Yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's goddamn professional, he squeezes on everything. And I'll be back soon.